Hello, my friendly acquaintances. You're in for a treat today. We have the one and the only, and many of you know him, B.W. Adam Mandelbaum. And we're going to be talking about dirty tricks that get played during divorce. He is an author, a speaker, and best of all, my personal friend. And you know of many of the pipe tobaccos, even some of the tea that I have recommended have actually been recommendations from this gentleman. So I am forever grateful uh, for enhancing my life with, like, I was never a tea guy ever. I was always a coffee guy. And you turned me on to some teas. And I have to say that tea and pipe smoking go hand in hand. You can really make a great pairing with tea and pipes.
And
Anyways,
too.
yeah,
And just in case somebody doesn't know from the previous episodes, I was a men's rights attorney for many years, and I've handled over 400 divorce cases.
yeah. So you're you resonate with the statement that patterns don't lie when I say that. So you see so many patterns. You can listen to a person for 30 minutes and you can kind of tell the direction or the trajectory of where they're going. So today, what is the exact topic? Tell the audience.
All right, today we're talking about divorce dirty tricks that happen before the actual filing of papers, during and afterwards. And mainly, from my experience, which is not insignificant, men are the victims. So at times that men are the perpetrators, sure. But most of the time, it's women doing the dirty tricks. And what I want to tell you about are various dirty tricks and how to deal with them.
I'll tell you what, right there, that is gonna, like, didn't we do something about how to, at one time it was
Save
how to
thousands
say,
of dollars, yeah, in legal defeat.
yeah, yeah. I mean, just that alone. Yeah, let me tell you something. I had a one of my followers text me this morning and said he won a custody case. He has his kids for the summer, something to that effect. And what's what I find fascinating is he feels that he won to have his kids, as if it's not
Sure.
natural.
Well,
When
you got to pick
when
you got to pick and choose your cases.
when women when women can, this is what's screwed up about the system. When women get to keep the children from the men, it's considered a victory. How effed up is it when a victory is defined as when the kids or when the dad can't see his kids?
Well, the answer to
That
the
is,
question is in the future when the kid is either a drug addict in prison or some other nasty stuff,
it's a victory for the woman when the father can't see the kids,
and a defeat for the children.
and a defeat for the children.
You do
I
not
just
want to
saw
have Uncle Daddy.
I just saw some statistics about fatherless homes and what they do to society as far as the number of, births out of wedlock, crime, people in jail, all these different, like, really negative things in society stem
Substance abuse.
from substance abuse, violence, stem from not having a father in the home. And some people would say, well, if the fathers would step up to the plate, that's baloney. That's baloney.
You know what you've seen on your show for many years, and I've been with you, I think, since almost you started. How many comments you've gotten from grown men and from maybe younger men that you're a father figure and how much you've helped them.
Yeah,
With that now, take away that father figure from when a kid's growing up, and what do you get? You get beta males.
yeah,
Best.
yeah. A woman cannot teach a young boy how to be a man. And the woman's boyfriend or string of boyfriends going in and out of that house, playing house with the mother, he can't be a father to those
I
kids.
was one
It's
of those
impossible.
guys. I was one of, because you have no authority. It's not your kid. You got to be careful. And you're number 10 on the list of importance when you're in that situation. Which why, folks, guys, stay away from baby mamas. Thank you.
Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. Have a good night.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Mic drop.
Yeah. All right. Let's get started. What's the first thing you have to tell us?
Warning signs. I had mentioned this a little bit on the other shows that I've done with you. But when a woman says to you, I feel threatened, watch out. Somebody's been talking to her. If you have a business or a side hustle that is off the books, and she says she wants to file separate tax returns all of a sudden, that's a warning she's been talking to an attorney. Because if you're filing joint returns and you're fucking around on your taxes and she's signing it, she's also liable. So when you get warnings like that, or when you get a feeling, an instinct, because instinct is basically pattern recognition on a subconscious level, when you get that if something's wrong, something's different, then you have to go into stealth mode. And here's what I'm talking about. There are times when women and men will put software on your computer to monitor every keystroke, every website visited. They'll do it on your phone too. Now, phones, they can get text. There's ways of recording your calls and all that kind of stuff there. So what do you want to do? Let's say, for example, you want to start researching the law in your jurisdiction about divorce. You don't want to do that from your home computer, guys. Go to the library and do that. You can't monitor that. Okay? Any research you want to do about that stuff, or if you want to research what kind of an attorney, which attorney can I call? You do that remotely, not on your computer. Next thing, establish a separate email that she can't access for obvious reasons. Number 3, get a burner phone. Get a phone that she does not have access to. And do not ever download anything that you don't know where it came from, because that might be software on your phone that she can monitor. The other thing, if you can financially, is get a separate credit card in your name only, obviously. And the other thing you got to do is get a post office box. Now, with post office boxes these days, you don't have to have an address that says P.O. Box 123. It can say the street address of the post office, and you can put unit. Don't put apartment, you can put unit or number.
Mhm.
So here's what you want to do. You want to go into stealth mode. You want to minimize the chances of her finding out the shit you're doing. So to recap, you want to have computer remotely at a library or something to do your research, because you're not giving any personal information. Number 2, you want to burn a phone. Number 3, you want a P.O. box. Number 4, you want a separate email. Number 5, you want a separate credit card. Because what she can do on joint credit cards, I've seen it many, many times, is she'll take the credit card and she'll pay her attorney's retainer out of that.
Yes. So that means you will have credit card bills sent to the P.O. box rather than to the home, because at
Because you
that
don't want her
point,
to know that exists. And this way,
yeah,
you have a credit line to pay an attorney a retainer also. So you want to separate your information from her. And now, by the way, once you think things are about to go south, everything you do, everything you say, expect it to be played back in court.
yes,
Therefore, do not do anything. Do not say anything that you wouldn't want a judge to hear. Now, a lot of times a woman's going to set you up by sending nasty, argumentative emails to you. You will respond to them, if at all, calmly and politely, always. As George says, woman's giving you a hard time, put your hands in your pocket, walk away. Because now we're going to go to another dirty tricks. And that is, and I'm sure a lot of you guys have seen it or been through it, they'll file a family offense petition against you, or whatever it might be called in your jurisdiction, to get you out of the house with a stay away order of protection. So now you can't live there, well, you're paying the bills anyway.
I've seen that happen. I've seen men get yanked out of their own home as a result of this nonsense, and they have to pay all the bills.
As I told you one time, I think on another previous episode, I had one case where a guy was arrested for domestic violence when he broke his computer. It was his computer. I got that dismissed because in the criminal court, I said, you can't make a determination on marital property. Therefore, you don't know if this is his computer or not. Therefore, fuck you. You got to dismiss the case. And he did.
Right.
So
Right.
they will use this tactic to get tremendous leverage over you. And as we all know, guys, in family court, you might as well call it woman's court.
Right. I have said, and you can verify this, that every time you ever slammed a door, slammed a drawer, raised your voice 1 decibel, it will be used against you somehow, some way. And the ultimate is, as soon as she says, like the first level that you know where things are going bad is when she says, he scares me. If there's kids, all she has to say is, kids are scared of him. Holy shit, they send in the troops.
Now, again, dependent upon your jurisdiction. A lot of times, if a family offense petition is launched, or a domestic violence petition, again, depending on where you are and how it's set up, they will automatically, on the first appearance, issue an order of protection. It may be what we call, at least in New York, a do not harass, which means don't do anything you shouldn't do anyway, or more likely a stay away, which means get the fuck out. Now that's challengeable, but don't forget the state doesn't really care. They just don't want to get sued. So now when they issue that order, that's without a finding. In other words, they haven't made a determination. It's just while the case is pending, and after the case is over, they may either get rid of it or they may continue it. But what happens is, before a divorce is launched, if she wants to play this trick, you're winding up in family court. You're getting an order of protection against you. You're getting out of the house. You're sleeping in the car while you're paying for the mortgage. Not good. Fight those cases. Don't knuckle under. Don't settle. Fight every one of those cases. Lawyer up immediately and fight those cases. A lot of guys don't. Don't be that guy.
I have seen guys, it's really interesting. A woman who has a pretty high earning capacity as a medical professional who stayed home to raise the children or be a full-time house mom or something, or work a part-time job in the community somewhere. But she is degreed and licensed and has a pretty high earning capacity, 6 figures, but she has chosen to stay home. I have seen men have to pay her attorney cost, be ordered to pay all her expenses, even when she has a high earning capacity. Tell me about that.
All right. First of all, by the way, again, dependent upon your jurisdiction. If she earned those licenses during the marriage, that's marital property. You get a piece of that. Has to be evaluated. It has a monetary value. You're entitled to part of it if it was earned during the marriage. Now, we make the arguments when we're defending guys on this that this woman is underemployed. And obviously, these young kids, it's a little tougher, but if there's not, she's underemployed intentionally, that she's not entitled to these things, and she can go to work. Because even if you're in a jurisdiction where temporary or permanent maintenance, which is another word for alimony, is formulaic, in other words, plug in the numbers. Normally, in the drafting of the statute, there's a saying, there's a part that the judge can vary from that based upon his own discretion, and he has to enumerate the reasons. But I've seen it plenty of times. They are underemployed intentionally, or they'll quit as soon as they're married, they'll quit.
Yeah.
Right? And this might be a little extreme, but that's why I advise all the young guys out there who want kids, want to have kids, might as well tough. Don't marry her. Because then you got a whole set of other things to worry about.
Right.
I got a friend of mine's a lawyer. He lives with a woman, an educated woman, and they had a kid together. He was smart enough not to marry her. I know one guy who's got 4 kids with a woman never married her. So all they're going to get the same amount of child support. It's not like you're, screwing your kids, but at least the woman ain't going to rob you blind.
Right.
Again, depending on your jurisdiction.
Right. Let's continue with the dirty tricks.
All right, next dirty trick. And it's a stupid move for them to make. Sometimes they'll try to serve you with papers to embarrass you, like at work or somewhere else they know you'll be, so other people see this happen. By the way, ladies and gentlemen, don't do it. Going to come back to bite you on the ass. So here's what you do. If your wife, and soon to be ex, talks about she wants a divorce, this is what you tell her. Okay, well, look, you tell her this in an email too. If you're going to serve me with papers, just have your attorney call me and I'll arrange that be served. Because if you've done that and she still plays dirty pool, if your attorney's any good, you let the judge know about that. Now, is it going to make a big difference? No, but it's going to color her in a bad way to that judge. Because a lot of jurisdictions, you start and finish with the same judge. Do not avoid service. Don't do anything to the guy serving you because it's just his job. And because eventually, see, if you're avoiding service, there are procedures where they go to court and say, look, the guy's been avoiding service. Let me have an alternative method of service. You don't want that. Normally, you got to be served personally in a divorce action. Again, depending on your jurisdiction procedures.
They can't just pop it in your mailbox. They have to hand it to you.
Or they can, for example, if they open a door, they can put it in the door and then you leave. Although there are cases, depending on where you are, that if it's in an envelope and it doesn't say what it is, that might not be good service.
Mm-hmm.
So the bottom line is you don't have to worry about that. What you have to worry about is letting them know, them being the wife and or attorney, I'm available for service. Let's make arrangements. Okay. Or if you're lawyered up already, you might be able to make an arrangement. Say, okay, just serve it upon my attorney, and we'll acknowledge service and we'll contest it. All right. Now, here's a very important thing. A lot of guys have joint accounts with their wife. And that means is either one of you can take all the money out. If you have a joint account with your wife and you know shit's going to go down and you think shit's going to go down, take out half the money, put it in a separate account. Let her know. So I'm not absconding with the money, but I'm entitled to half. You're entitled to half. I just want to have it in a separate account. You know, am I going to contribute to expenses? Sure. Because I've seen it many, many times where the woman wants to start a divorce. She'll empty the account, use part of it to pay the lawyer, and take care of the rest. Now, you can go back to her afterwards and try to do something about that, maybe offset it against another asset, but why be in that position? If you hear, I want to file separate returns or I feel threatened, take half the money out of the joint account, put it in your own account.
Can that account be frozen by a judge? Can the judge say, for fear of absconding, for fear of emptying the account, I'm freezing this account?
That's an excellent question. I'm telling you, New York, I don't know what other jurisdictions. When they serve papers, something that comes with it is an automatic order that says you can't transfer assets except in the normal course of living while the case is pending. And that's a court order. But I'm talking about before the case starts, when there is no order. I'm a woman. I want to divorce George. Okay, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to empty out our joint account. Start my own account. So I've hurt him financially. I may be taking away his ability, unless you've been following my instructions, may take away his ability to get an attorney. And now you're sitting pretty. So you do it before. Because you have a right to. And if you disclose it and you let her know, no harm, no foul. You know? Because if she goes to court and bitches, hey, he took half the money. I said, yeah. And here's where I showed her where it was and how much was there.
Right. Great response. What about if a guy is collecting things? I know a lot of people are buying silver coins, gold coins, bullion, investment jewelry, that kind of thing. If that's purchased during the duration of the marriage, that is considered marital property?
In New York and probably most jurisdictions it is. I'll give you an example. I had a case where the guy was a general custard collector, which is tough to evaluate. There's only a few people that can do that. And of course, she was using that as leverage to get other assets because she didn't want the collection, but she wanted to use her marital interest in that to get more goodies from the other side of the balance sheet. So yeah, absolutely. You can lose your collection. They can get a court order forcing it sold, and then you split the money. So it definitely is up for grabs if it's acquired during the marriage, which why you want to do an inventory before you're married. What I have, I would take a video inventory too. What I have before the marriage. You also want to do that, by the way, for insurance purposes, especially if you have something that's really easy to destroy, like I have, like certain paper collectibles, certain ephemera, because you want that insured if you can get it. And they're going to usually insist, the insurance company that is, on a video inventory. But you want it to prove, this is what I had before the marriage. Okay, now you have evidence. Otherwise, it's going to be hard to say, did you collect these baseball cards before I got married or afterwards? Prove it. If you have fragile collectibles, if you see shit that's going down as a problem, I don't care if you put it in storage or depending how much you got, a safe deposit box, because they may just wreck it just to be ornery, and it's irreplaceable. When I was living with my third fiance and I was getting out, first thing I unloaded, took out of the place, were my collectibles, because she could have ripped them all up.
Yeah.
Speaking about pipes, by the way, one time she was pissed off. She takes all my pipes, she throws them in the street. Most of them survived, and the bitch even actually paid to get one repaired. But collectibles, get them away from her. Get her access away from her. I'm not saying bury them, I'm saying hide them. And as part of your statement of net worth, or whatever it's called in your jurisdiction, you're going to have to declare them. But don't give her access while this thing's going on. Because they may disappear, they may be destroyed.
Men hang themselves. They dig their own graves. You know, what's interesting is we sacrifice so much for a woman. We will sacrifice ourselves. We act as if we would lay our lives down for them, and then that gets used against us time and time again. Regarding collectibles, let's think about motorsports. Guys will have ATVs, they have motorcycles, that type of thing. If that was purchased during a marriage, I would imagine that they have to be liquidated or they are considered an asset that needs to be split.
I was doing a separation agreement, and in the separation agreement, because I was mixing and matching from other agreements, the husband got the motorcycle. So I'm sitting, I'm sitting down with the other lawyer, these two people, and we're going over it. And they both look at me, the both parties look at me, says, "What motorcycle?" It wasn't one. And of course, we corrected that. But I'm saying that's the funny part of it. But yeah, vehicles, of course, especially if it's a valuable vehicle. Oh yeah, anything acquired during a marriage, depending upon your jurisdiction, but mostly, is marital property.
What about if a guy starts a business and he runs the business? He is the solopreneur. He's got a shop, a barber shop, a delivery business. He's got a food truck. Let's say he started that during the marriage. What effect does the divorce have on that?
It could be considered, it probably will be considered a marital asset. And by the way, if you're going to start a business, do not, see the pattern, do not have your wife participate in any way, shape, or form, because it will give her a larger share.
Right.
Plus, you'll know shit you don't want to know anyway.
Right.
So that's real important. Yeah, businesses, professional license. Let's say a guy like you gets his PSY, whatever it's called, ED, whatever, I don't know what it's called. What is it called? Psychological doctorate. What is that?
Yeah,
PSYD?
a side D. Yeah.
A side D. You get that during the marriage, guess what, folks? Marital property.
Mm.
And now, depending on your jurisdiction, if you have an asset prior to the marriage, separate property, a lot of jurisdictions will award a portion of appreciation if there's any, if there's a divorce. And there are different states. There are states that, like New York and New Jersey, I believe, have what they call equitable distribution, which doesn't necessarily mean half. And you got Florida and other ones that are community property states where they get like half. So, but yeah, all these assets are up for grabs if it's acquired during a marriage. Here's something very dirty and very important. And you've seen it, and I'm sure some of you guys out there experienced it or know somebody who has. When you get a real dirtbag wife and you have kids, you may get an accusation in a family court or in a criminal court that you either have abused them or something like that, not necessarily sexually. But they do that, of course, to, number one, fuck with you on visitation, and number two, if it gets to the whatever court has jurisdiction over your divorce, which in New York is the Supreme Court, not to be confused with the United States Supreme Court. Trial courts in New York called the Supreme Court for divorce. They're trying to make you look bad in front of that judge. They're trying to limit your visitation. If you get accused of anything like that, don't knuckle under, don't make a deal, fight it, lawyer up, fight it immediately. Because if it comes out, it turns out, and frequently it does, that was a bogus accusation, you had a better chance of getting custody, which means you got a better chance of getting child support. You want to fight like a, and you also want to do this because in these kind of cases, the court's normally going to appoint a law guardian, which is an attorney that represents the kid supposedly, and also they may order the hiring of forensic psychologists. Get your own too. This way, if you know, and sometimes these court experts are biased towards a man, towards a woman. Get your own, so you can put him on the stand too, if you need to. Is it expensive? Yeah, but you know, maybe you like your kids.
Yeah. Divorce is expensive. What's the most expensive case that you've ever seen?
Well, I wish the hell it would have been mine, but somebody's running into the millions if they got a lot of assets. Me, you know, some people may say only, but when I was practicing, I only charged $300 an hour, and most guys with my experience would charge them $500. And a lot of times you don't collect everything either. But somebody's like these celebrity divorces or rich people, millions of dollars. Because nowadays these guys are charging $1,000 an hour in, you know, cities. It's expensive as hell. Plus the experts you have to hire to evaluate assets.
Yeah.
It was thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars to evaluate a business. Now, things like stocks and investments, depending on your jurisdiction. If the appreciation during the marriage, assuming they were separate property, if the appreciation during the marriage is based solely on market forces, and then you're in an equitable distribution state, she may not get it, any part of it. She may get a small part of it. But when it comes to licenses, when it comes to businesses, you're going to spend a lot of money to evaluate that. Plus, you're going to pay if there's a custody fight or a visitation fight for the experts that the court will appoint, and any ones that you get, the forensic psychologist or the law guardian.
Yeah.
So you're in for a big expense, maybe, probably, because a lot of these don't settle until the middle of trial, which is why you want to do what I talked about before. Get separate funds, get that separate credit card account, take half the money out of a joint account with full disclosure. So you have at least something to battle with, because what they're going to do next, and this is kind of a dirty trick, but it's also it's allowed by law. Once the papers are served, normally a woman's going to file what's called a pendente lite action, which is a fancy lawyer term for, while litigation is pending, give me support, give me maintenance, take care of these bills, give me legal fees, give me the rainbow, give me everything. And they don't need it all, but they want to impoverish you now, because the harder you fight, especially if you're a guy, this is something to be aware of. Sometimes, in fact, a lot of times, a woman will knuckle under, and she'll get rid of her attorney. She'll want to represent herself. And when they do that, so fight. Don't knuckle under. I'm not saying don't be willing to negotiate, but for everything you get, everything she gets, you got to get something.
Yeah.
I mean, and you'll appreciate this as an animal lover. A lot of times, many thousands of dollars are fought over who gets, custody of the dog, the parakeet, or the iguana.
Yeah.
So you also have to be reasonable. Say, look, with the limited funds that I have, what am I going to fight over? What am I not going to fight over?
Right.
Because nobody's coming out as happy. And that's how we lawyers know we've done our job. If both sides are miserable, we did a good job.
Yeah.
All right. Any other questions before I go on?
Keep going.
Getting back to that, oh yeah, real dirty one. This is where the wife absconds with the kids. All right. Sometimes they go to a foreign country. If they can get out, they go to a foreign country. But they'll go to a different state. And maybe they won't fly there, because a lot of times you'll have to, if you're flying with kids, you may have to, give an affidavit from the other side, the other parent, to the airport or something, that you have the authority to do it. But if they abscond with the kids, immediately, again, see a pattern, immediately get a lawyer, go file a habeas corpus petition to get those kids back, because it's going to take a while. And I have seen it where it took several months to get the kid back. It was a 5-year-old boy. And I might have mentioned this on another show. The father was a construction worker, a tough guy, good guy. His kid didn't know who the fuck he was. Broke his heart, right in court, in the hallway. And I said, all right. He said, yeah, give it to her. I said, all right, but I'll save you some money on child support, because different states have different ages where child support ends. Some is 18, some is 21.
But if the woman continues this ruse of, I'm afraid of him, the child is afraid of him, and then she goes somewhere or out of state to these they contact these agencies or these non-government organizations that help women, and they keep the women. Yeah, and they try to keep everybody anonymous. They tell the woman, you don't need to tell them where you live or your address, because there's always the one asshole that tracks down the woman and causes problems. But the one guy ruins it for the other 9.
Yep.
1 out of 10 might be an idiot who actually is a stalker, et cetera, et cetera. And the other 9 just want to see their kids. It's like, look, babe.
One of the other things they'll do, George, is they say, for example, I'm a woman living in a state where 18 is the cutoff point for child support.
Yeah.
I may want to abscond to one where it's 21, because under what's called UIFSA, which in English is the Uniform Interstate Family Support Act. If they've been there, usually I think it's about 6 months, the law where they are, where the kid is, controls.
Yeah.
So let's say you're in a state where it's 18. Woman absconds to New York where it's 21. And if they're going to college straight through, it could be 22. You're going to have a hearing by phone, by video, maybe by Zoom, whatever the hell it is. But if they've been there long enough, it's the state that the kid's located in that's going to control child support, which means they can get a 3-year raise.
Yeah.
If they know what they're doing. Not a dirty trick, which is why you immediately, when the kid is gone, you fight right away. Don't farm it. Don't put it off, and don't try to negotiate with them either. I mean, the first time you call, if you're in contact with her, bring the kids back. Send her a letter, send her an email. She says no, fuck you. Boom, go right to court.
Yeah.
It's going to make her look terrible.
Yeah.
And it should.
I have seen women, when they go to court against a guy, they have their latest or newest boyfriend with them as just another way to kick the father or the husband in the balls.
You know,
And he's being Captain Save-A-Ho, and he's acting as if he's escorting her to court, and she knows it's a kick in the nuts for the husband, and she'll do whatever she can to do
yeah,
that.
it's amazing when they're living with the guy, the hairs and curlers, they weigh 700 pounds, whatever the hell they do, they look like shit. When they go in court, in divorce court, all of a sudden they're all prettied up to this, to that, and everything else.
Yeah.
Or on the other hand, and I've seen this, they walk in with a cane, like, what they don't need, and they're very sympathetic. By the way, guys, don't wear the Rolex to divorce court. Wear a jacket and tie, be respectful, but don't wear a Chiffonelli suit.
Yeah. Yeah. Good advice.
But the
Good
women are going to
advice.
play the woe is me card, always. Because, traditionally in society, women are the so-called weaker sex. Ha ha to that one.
Yeah.
And one thing that's very tough for a guy to do, it's very hard to do, but you got to do it. Don't lose your fucking temper. Don't think emotionally. Once this shit starts to go down, now you're a general and you're planning your campaign. You got to get that mentality. Not that you're going to do violence, of course, but you got to plan your strategy. Because the better you plan, the better you're coming out.
She wants to kill you, and you're supposed to do nothing about it. She literally would be happy if you died.
Oh, yeah.
She literally would be happy if you went to jail, because she would tell the kids, your dad really needed help, or he was really a troubled guy. And, I tell guys all the time, she wants to see you dead. They
She
are,
wants to see you tortured.
yeah, she wants to see you tortured before you die. What happens is guys are shocked when I say that. After a year of working with men, that very man, after working with me for 1 year, will come back and say, everything you said was right. She does want to kill me. And one of the ways, they can do one knockout blow, or they wear you down. They stress you out. They take the long way around everything. A woman knows how to stress her husband out. And especially if it's a female lawyer representing her, she knows how to throw out the false accusations. She knows how to produce the phone calls where you were saying, I want to see my fucking kids this weekend, when you were pissed. And of course, it makes you sound like a lunatic. And I tell men, just realize all of your reactions to everything are emotional at first. Everything.
By the
Doesn't
way,
matter.
matter of fact, now that I've retired, there is one woman in my jurisdiction who is, I would say, she's the 10th degree black belt of divorce. Very classy lady too, and actually is the type that'll represent a client without being a dick if she doesn't have to be. But
Yeah.
that's who I'd recommend. Sometimes you might want to think, look, if there are, you made a good point. If there are allegations of domestic abuse, I'd seriously consider hiring a female attorney. For obvious reasons.
Yeah. Do you think females can see through other females' bullshit more than men can?
Yeah, they went to the same school.
Yeah.
The University of Virginia, not Virginia.
Well, it reminds me of an Al Bundy phrase where he said, women understand women very well, and they still hate each other.
Oh, yeah. They're vicious, folks. Much more vicious than men are. And it's not, is that being misogynistic? No, it's being realistic, because I've seen it a million times. So have you as a therapist.
Yes.
We're not pulling this out of our ass. This is what the reality is.
That's right.
And you better know it before the shit hits the fan. You're dealing with a cobra, not a pussycat.
Men usually go on the defense when it comes to divorce, it seems like.
They have to, because as you know, 70% of the divorces started by women unless they're educated, and then that's 90%.
Yeah.
So they have to go to defense because they're the fucking defendant.
Yeah.
Now, I've seen cases, maybe you've heard about them too in your practice. The women, when the husband's gone, will clean out the house. They'll take the fucking furniture. They'll take everything.
Yeah.
So, let's say you're on a business trip, you go back home, you come back to an empty house.
I've seen that.
Which is one of the reasons why you want to put cameras in the house. And if the woman is, what are you doing? I said, for your security, honey. This way you have it on video that she did all this shit. Because they're not allowed to do that. Another dirty trick they can pull, and this is with the cooperation of their attorney, is last minute notice or last minute applications for an adjournment. And if the other side is friendly with the judge, a lot of times they'll pull that shit. And all of a sudden, your attorney's worked on preparing for a hearing, for example, which you're getting billed for, of course. You're charged up to go in there. At the last minute, 2-week adjournment, 1 month adjournment, whatever the fuck it is. Psychologically and financially, that's bad. A lot of times they'll try that. Now, if they pull that shit and they're not friendly with the judge, that's going to hurt them. And a lot of times in jurisdictions, if they wanted the German and you're contesting it, you call the judge's chambers, you fight it out, they do whatever the hell they're going to do. But that's another dirty trick. Another dirty trick is during discovery, which means when you get financial information from them, they delay. Or they give you, we'll say, well, I don't have these statements, but I'll give you the authority to get them, which again, delays. Normally in the case, in the beginning, depending upon what your jurisdiction calls it, there's a preliminary conference. One of the things worked out at that conference is a discovery schedule and when the case has to be ready for trial, which is flexible, but they have it down there. So somebody who's hiding assets or fucking with you may delay the production of financial information. And then you may have to go to court and get a motion to do it. And maybe you'll get legal fees for that, maybe you won't. That's another dirty trick is, hiding the cards. A lot of dirty tricks, folks.
I like to say date long, marry slow, and if you're going to get divorced, divorce fast.
And I like to say, date long, never get married. Because
Exactly.
the largest cause of divorce is marriage.
Right.
And this old man here never got married because I learned from my lessons from my clients. And the definition of a bachelor, folks, is a guy that never made the same mistake once. As you know, I have several books related to this topic. One, strangely enough, is called Divorce 30 Tricks, available on Amazon in electronic form, very inexpensive. I have another one that was based with another show we did on, hang on a second here, on saving thousands of dollars in legal fees in your divorce. And then after it's all over, I have something called the Born Again Bachelor's Bible, which will tell you how to have a fun and be a good guy after you get rid of the old ball and chain.
And the links for those will be down below.
Right. Remember, speaking of cops and things, most jurisdictions, if your wife calls a 911 and says you've been violent or threatening her, cops going to arrest you.
No matter what happened.
Yeah, because, it's like kill them all, let God sort them out. Is, arrest them all, let the judge sort them out.
Right.
Which is so important to keep your temper. I mean, you go out of the house and go, go punch walls, whatever the fuck you want to do. But don't ever say anything threatening. Don't do it. Is it tough? Yeah. But like you said, George, put your hands in your pocket and walk away. Because if you don't, you're going to hurt your case.
Yeah. It is true. Everything you say or do will be used against you.
Unless you're saying and doing the smart things. If she's calling you a scumbag and a rat motherfucker and all that other stuff, assuming you can keep that in an email, and you say, darling, isn't it better that we try to get along? Well, there's evidence there. You want to create evidence, not manufacture it falsely, but create it in advance that shows you're a nice guy. You're a reasonable guy. You're not a violent guy. You're not a
right.
She's the person that's a prick.
Right.
You got to think strategy, because the more you do, the less problems you're going to have.
The other thing I was thinking about, and you and I had talked about this before, if you need psychological help, go visit a counselor, therapist, a psychologist, a coach. Like, lawyers are not therapists. I don't call a plumber if I need electrical work done. And many men assume that their attorney is going to be the source of peace.
Well, I said this on, I think, one of the other shows with you. Number one, you don't use a hammer when you need a screwdriver. And number two, there are some attorneys that'll listen to your sob stories, sure, as they're making, $10 a minute,
Yeah.
I used to tell my clients, look, that's a law degree back there, not a side D, right? You got emotional problems, go get somebody who deals with that. Get a therapist, not me. You'll save legal fees for more important shit.
Yeah.
And another thing, guys, when you're involved in these actions, don't editorialize. In other words, if you're swearing out an affidavit in a motion or something, you don't say that ratting bitch took my dog away on this date. You would say she took away the dog on this date. Do not editorialize. Do not use ad hominem attacks as much as you want to, but don't.
Yeah. Special thanks to W. Adam Mandelbaum. Links will be down below. Former New York State attorney, over 400 divorce cases and other interesting cases under his belt, now happily retired from the legal field, and a personal friend, a pipe aficionado. and also suffers, like me, from tobacco acquisition disorder. And a lot of our conversations have been about pipes and tobacco, and also pairing them with things. And
You
like I
also
said,
have other hobbies in common too with collecting and stuff.
comic books. Well,
It just cost you $40.
$49.46 to
That's
be
why
honest.
I got the Kindle version of that for $10.
Yeah, right, right. Well, I'm the kind of guy, I gotta hold it. I gotta
Oh,
hold the physical thing in my hand. But
you'll love it. You'll love
I
it.
can't wait to get that because it got all 5-star reviews. It's fantastic.
Do you like Doctor Strange?
I never got into Doctor Strange,
Okay.
but I don't know a lot about him. It's not because I looked into it and then said, "Nah, I'm not into it." I just never.
All right, then you wouldn't be interested in this omnibus, but yeah, you're gonna love Choke Gas. And there are other ones too. You're gonna probably, you're gonna tell your clients now, don't pay me, just buy me these things. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's great.
What is Doctor Strange?
Doctor Strange came out. It's a Marvel hero. They made movies about it with Benedict Eat a Snatch or whatever the hell his name is.
Hmm.
Uh, he's the Sorcerer Supreme. He was a famous surgeon that was only interested in money, and then one day he gets into an accident. He can't do surgery anymore, and he winds up going to to bed or someplace where the ancient one teaches him magic, and
Hmm.
then he fights otherworldly creatures and stuff like that.
Interesting.
Yeah,
Interesting. Maybe I will get into it. Who knows?
you'll spend money on it. You save your money for the EC.
God, I love my EC comics. I love them.